The sports conversation begins now. Rugby in the country has new leadership. Sasha Mutai is the chairman of the Kenya Rugby Union. He's our guest this morning. Good morning, Sasha.
Good morning, Hank.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much.
That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Make yourself comfortable.
Asante sana.
Now that you are the helm of KRU, and we are watching the Global Sevens and we're seeing Kenya's performance here and there. We'll be asking all these questions. We'll be asking about our 15s. We'll be asking about local sport development in the country and very many things. You've been in this game for many years.
Yeah.
As a player, in management at various levels, seeking to be the chair of KRU not once, not twice. Now you are the chair.
Yeah.
And we were saying with CT, when he comes, we'll tell him, okay, now, you've asked, mtoto amelilia wembe.
Amepewa.
Shika wembe.
Mtoto akililia wembe mpe.
Now you've been given that wembe. But to welcome you to the conversation, CT has the day's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the country of Togo. This is our last day in Togo. The water carrier does not drink mud.
The water carrier does not drink mud.
No.
Sasha, what do you think the Togolese are saying in this proverb?
Well, the water carrier does not drink mud. If you're carrying something, if you're carrying the water, you drink the water. But yeah, that's one way of looking at it. So yes, you said
How do you translate it into daily life?
into daily life. If you're carrying, the burdens of the people, you have to also make sure you're carrying water, you're taking it to them. You must make sure that people get the best. That's what we're here to do. I've taken this job. I asked for it. This is the third time. I was vice chairman before. I was director before. We've seen the issues that bedeviled Kenya Rugby, and we're here to offer the solution. We bring in the water from the river and make sure we don't fall down and stumble. So we have a good team that was elected. There's been a lot of issues in Kenya Rugby. We lost confidence of our partners, previous partners, and of course that translates on the field. Like an organization, a company, if you look at a company making losses and all that, it probably goes up to their leadership. For us, it's
Not probably.
It is.
It
goes
up to the
it goes up to the leadership.
And leadership goes all the way to the board.
Exactly.
Board
So
level.
it's top down. Everything reflects. So the results on the pitch, when we have problems, we have a lot of good talent in the country, and we've seen it on display before. Now, what was happening? There was a disconnect between what was happening at the board and down on the field, and also with the clubs in Kenya. Now, once we lost confidence of our partners, around about 2014, 2015, no money was coming in. And you need resources to run this game. When you look at the good times of Kenya Sevens, from 2008 all the way to 2016, there was money in the game. When Kenya Airways was sponsoring Kenya Rugby, the Sevens team, we had a budget of $2 million. So we could pay coaches like Mike Friday who came in. Then afterwards we had Paul True, the best coaches in the world. We could afford them. We could afford to pay the players good money and bonuses. We had insurance, everything. I mean, the players were making more money in rugby than their day job. So they were semi-pro. They were making more money than their parents. So rugby was an avenue for your livelihood. But now it's gone, but we want to bring it back. We have a good team on the board. Young, also experienced guys. We've also co-opted in a new director who is not a rugby man, but is a businessman, Cairo Thuo. So we are saying, it's not business as usual. Kenya Rugby has changed. Next week we have a board meeting on Monday, and we're looking to co-opt 3 more directors and ladies at this. We have 1 elected lady on the board. So we need to have 4, and they will have marketing experience. So we're changing things. It's not just rugby, but business. That's what we want to run. Cairo Thuo is well-seasoned director, sits on a number of boards, NCBA, he sits on ICA Lion, he sits on Kenya Power, and now he's going to be on the Kenya Rugby board. He's an expert in tax and legal. And we want to also exploit the Income Tax Act that puts in the sponsorship. If you put money into sports sponsorships, you can get full tax deductions. So we want to exploit that. So Kenya has the laws. We now have the people, the resource. Now you'll see that the talent on the pitch will be matched with the talent on the board.
Those glory years, like you said, 2008 to 2016, things were happening, things were moving. You had sponsors coming on board. You had spectators thronging the fields. You know, you had people watching the rugby circuits and various tournaments across the country. You had players turning up and wanting to play and join rugby. And then suddenly things just stopped working. It can't have been sudden.
It was gradual. As I said, things started going down from 2014, 2015. We lost confidence of the partners, and you see, companies like Safaricom and Bamburi left the scene. Then later on, I think 2016, 2017, SportPesa came in, but it was short-lived. Now, what we want to do is bring back the confidence. We are telling our potential partners and sponsors that it's a new board. We have new thinking, new fresh ideas. My ideas, I mean, I've touted these ideas from 2017 when I first ran for chairmanship. It's only the dates that have changed. Now we're all singing from the same hymn book. Yeah, there's unity in what we are doing in the board. Again, that was a problem in the previous boards, that there's infighting, and of course, if you're not working together, nothing can happen. Yeah? So what we have is what we call in Latin consensus ad idem, a meeting of minds. We want to bring back rugby, take it to the top. We're looking at qualifying for the Rugby World Cup in 2027 for the men. And for the women, actually, it could be a faster step into the World Cup. The Kenya women are in Madagascar this month, playing in the Africa Division 1 competition. And that is a pathway to qualification for the World Cup in 2025. We also have our under-20s that played last week in the Bathurst Cup. We lost to Zimbabwe in the final. In July, we have the Junior World Rugby Trophy in Nairobi, and that's also a big honor for Kenya to host that. So we're looking at big things. World Rugby and Africa Rugby have confidence now in Kenya Rugby. So we want to put our best foot forward and move the game forward. We're also looking at expanding rugby into primary schools. And now we want to start conversations with the Ministry of Education to get rugby as a core sport in the curriculum for primary schools. And now we also want to exploit our talents in the secondary schools. So we want to restart really Kenya schools team, national schools team. That used to be there when we were playing, but that went away. Now, if you look at a country like Zimbabwe, there was a quality difference last week, and we'll have to admit that, between Kenya and Zim. We were in the final, but you could see, and I've seen the stats of the players, they've been together for more than 5 years. You see, in Kenya, the Kenya under-20 team, I think we only had 5 players from the previous year. But these guys, the whole team has been together and moving forward. That's what we need to do. Talent identification of the talent, and we put them together, we track them, and that is how we move forward. This dream of making the 2027 World Cup, right now, our team is in South Africa, so it's a short fix, but we know we have to do a long-term solution. We have the talent, we know what we can do. We also have a few players playing semi-pro out there. We've recruited our previous coach, Jerome Pawata, who is South African, coaches the Western Province. His pedigree is second to none. He's been assistant coach of the Springboks. He's been coach of the Emerging Boks. He's coached the Heineken Cup side. He's coached Kenya. Now he's back. This happened just a few weeks before I came in. I don't know if it was the gods of rugby were
stars aligning.
The stars are aligning, exactly. But he's well proven. We also have a good technical team. Also Curtis Olago, who is the coach of the under-20, now is also the assistant coach. So we have talent in terms of also the human resource. Now what we need to do is bring in the capital,
Sasha,
financial resources. Yeah,
we've always had talent.
Yeah, we've always had talent. Yeah,
for a long time. In fact, we've had a preponderance of talent.
Yeah,
I'd like to understand what it is that we did that drove away the sponsors. What did we do?
Some personalities that were there on the board. I wouldn't name names, but I think...
What did they do? I mean, personalities, yes, but what happened? Because it's not as though one day you had sponsors, then the following day you didn't have sponsors. Something must have happened over a period of time, and then the sponsor said enough is enough.
The sponsors were bringing in the money for those tournaments, and they were clashing with sitting directors. Unfortunately.
You're a polite man.
Yeah.
He's a polite man.
Yeah, but at least you can tell us a bit more.
Yeah.
So yes, there's clashing with the over what? Because you're not talking about just one sponsor. Like you said, there were several sponsors. There was Bamburi that was sponsoring an entire series.
Yeah.
That was doing very, very well.
Yeah.
There was Safaricom that was sponsoring an entire weekend of events and across the country, and all of these.
Yeah, so there were some improprieties that happened, and so Kenya Rugby will say, yes, that has happened. There were audits that were done. There's also an audit done and a report submitted by chairman of clubs that named the names, and that is what happened, and that's a fact. So now we are saying there's a difference in management at the top, and things are changing. We are well proven, also in rugby and in different fields that we are in, and we are saying we are now setting the game forward. And our plan, if you saw the manifesto that I had sent out, we are all aligned to that. So it's increasing the player base, now also getting rugby, a professional level of rugby in Kenya.
There must have been something more, Sasha.
Yes.
Because I'm
there
just
was financial impropriety.
There was
and
that,
also clashes,
and there was then the naming of individual names.
Yeah.
But then the personalities left. We are talking about close to 10 years now.
They left not so long ago. They left, and they have been lurking in the background.
So what is happening then? Is it structural then? Are we saying that structurally, the management of rugby in the country was one that was not?
And we have to.
attracting?
And we also we have to restructure. If you look at also our secretariat, we need to strengthen it. Kenya is a big country. The thing is, we've grown the numbers in the game. But again, if you look at our office, we don't have the structures to run it. So we have to expand that. We have to bring in more talent. All this needs resources. Yeah. So we're looking at, aligning ourselves, telling the potential partners, we are back. We are the brand to go with, because apart from the tax issues that we're saying will exploit any company, if you put in 50 million and you can expense that fully and then get the benefits of sponsorship. But now with a platform that will be performing. And we can assure you that we're bringing the best, as you can see now with our team now in South Africa. Yesterday we played against the Springbok under-20, who are playing. They have the World Championship next month in South Africa. So we lost. It was 5-3. I got a report from the head coach, and he was pretty pleased. But he said there's also a lot of work to do. But we are moving forward. So I can assure you that you shall start seeing a winning side.
Okay, Sasha, you've assured us.
Yes.
What exactly are you going to put in place that will not assure but guarantee the sponsors that their monies will be well looked after?
Yeah.
What else are you putting in place to guarantee that the monies you receive will actually grow this game to the level that you want it to grow to?
So what we'll have is involvement of those partners. So we're looking at restarting the Super Series. And the Super Series, we want it to be the professional league for rugby in Kenya. So we're looking at 6 teams, region-based: Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, Eldoret, Kakamega, and also involve county governments in terms of them coming in with the land. What county governments can give is land. We need now also land for infrastructure. One thing that many people may not know is that KRU is homeless. We don't have a home. We are subtenants at RFUA. We don't own land.
You're a subtenant.
We're a subtenant, not a tenant.
No, you're a subtenant
at
Harlequins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Kenya Harlequins are main tenant. Then we have a bar over there. And KRU is a subtenant. That's the reality of it. So we've been talking to the Ministry of Sports, talked to the CS and the PS. There's a 1,070-acre land in Kasarani, and there's a master plan that was done years ago when Kasarani was being developed, that every sporting federation is supposed to have some land there. So we're looking now to secure our title deed there, and with that, now we can start development. I'm a quantity surveyor by profession, also an arbitrator, so I've been involved in quite a number of large projects, and we're going to use also that tax law to come in and build. Now, on the thing about transparency and accountability, yes. If you look at also the board members that we have, and I've said now we have top tax guy, legal there. We have a few lawyers. We want to know, when we bring in the partners, we want them to sit and also run together with us whatever programs we are running. So like the super series that we will reintroduce, because that also went down when Bamburi left. So that has not happened for a number of years. And that was where we would choose the Kenya team. The best players in Kenya would be chosen. So this in the franchises, and we would choose the Kenya team.
Okay. Yeah. How many sports managers do you have in your team?
Sports managers?
Yes, people who train, understand the process of managing sports. Not someone who likes sports, and then volunteers to help.
Not a sports enthusiast.
No, not those ones. Sports managers, the sort of people who even have a reputation and whom finances would trust with their money and say, okay, this is what these guys need, we're giving it to this management team, and they will ensure that everything gets done.
On the board, we have not sports people, we have people from different facets of business. If I can name our board, Vice Chairman Moses Ndala is an electrical contractor. We have a Secretary, Ray Olendo, who is a lawyer, legal. Shajara, Dr. Roni, he's in finance. He sits on a number of boards. We have Harriet Okach, a well-known businesswoman, also has been in county governments. Moses Mukabane, engineer, works at Kenya Power. Now he'll be sitting with his board on the boss with his boss on the board. Cairo Thuo, who is well known, as I've said, and told you what he's done. So we have trusted people on this board.
I understand.
Sports managers, we have run sports. I have been the director of Kenya Sevens during the successful times, so I didn't have to go to university to learn.
Actually,
but I've gone for also courses.
You have experience, but I think you know what I'm asking.
Exactly, yeah.
No, give it more thought, and see how you can incorporate such people.
What are you asking, City?
What I'm asking is very simply this. If you look at the way sports, let's talk about football and how football is run. The biggest problem we've had is you have money, you give it to the federation. Then the money goes each and everywhere, and all except where it's supposed to go. If you have people who are accredited and know how to manage these things, they are the ones who ensure these things get done. And people who are trusted, they are people who, just like he's a QS, I'm sure he's certified, I'm sure he's even a chartered surveyor. So someone does not think twice about giving him work, because you don't get there unless you have proven yourself over and over. Sports have similar fraternities. People who, when they're there, you know, the money is safe and everyone will get paid. Whatever needs to be done will get done. Because the moment the money goes to a board that is managing it, in this country, that's where we've had problems. Because the boards manage the money, and then within there, the individuals who manage it the way they want. And then things just go wrong completely.
But I will say not sports managers. We have professionals. If you look at big companies in marketing, if you look at the CEOs who have been successful, they're not marketers. They are mostly engineers. So engineers have thought process. They provide solutions. So I'll also say you don't necessarily have to have sports people managing. If you have proper managers, engineers who have proper analytical minds and will manage things properly, that's what you have. So it's a talent. What I'm saying now is the talent that you see on the field playing for Kenya is now matched by the talent on the board. Yeah.
Bado.
This is a situation room. So
No bado.
Not yet.
No bado. I think having explained, lakini tutaongea baadaye. Wajua mambo ni kuongea.
So for us, like for coaching, we
so
get
you want
technique.
somebody who's gone and studied sports
not only
as a
studied,
discipline.
not only studied it, practiced it, and understands it. You see, what Sasha is saying in principle is actually absolutely true.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's like now telling me that because of the thought processes, you have an engineer heading the accountants association. I'll say, yeah, yes, thought process, but he's not an accountant. Or the Chartered Surveyors Association, whatever you call it. You have somebody who is a seasoned banker and has risen and been CEO of many banks. Yeah, he is a seasoned manager, yes, but he is not a surveyor.
Okay.
No, but I'll say
At FIFA.
I've been vice chairman of the Architectural Association of Kenya. I've been the registrar. The CEO is not an architect or a QS or a landscape architect or an engineer.
What is he?
He has a business degree.
What does he manage?
He manages professionals.
And the
And
business of the business
but
of professionals.
but he's not. He's not.
He runs the
architect.
secretariat.
Yeah, he runs. Yes, the secretariat.
I think he gets my point.
Yeah.
And they clearly don't have
At the helm of FIFA, right?
Yeah.
Do we have football people who are trained at football managers?
There are
Yeah,
people.
man.
There are people who've gone through the process. Many of them are probably players and then went through whatever courses they go to become. Because you don't just become a football player and then you become a manager. You have to have some training. There are people who are managers who've never even played in their lives.
Yes. At FIFA.
For us, for me,
At
I
FIFA,
have
'cause we are creating FIFA to KRU or even the International Rugby Union. Those ones.
But for rugby, I'm saying we also need to have people with rugby passion, and of course people with who straight, no corruption. For me, rugby is all about passion. You have to. It's a smaller game than football. We have to now. I want to bring rugby to be the sport in Kenya, the main sport. I want it to overtake. So I'm very ambitious. I know we can do it. Rugby is now growing. If you go to Western Kenya, a couple of months ago, I was in St. Peter's, Mumias. I was watching teams that we had not heard of before, a number of years back. It's no longer the RVAs and Lenana School and Nairobi School. It's moved there to, Butula and Koyonzo. Those are the teams that are now playing. Butula now won the nationals this last weekend. So things have expanded. Yeah, and the game expanded from around 2011, 2012 when we took the game countrywide. And now there's rugby being played in Kilifi. So in all the provinces. So Northeastern is a place I would say we need to make some inroads. But if you look at the rest of Kenya, Kenya Rugby Union, for all its inadequacies that have happened in the last year, has expanded the game. Now what we need to do is now structure it properly. So even the previous office, what we can say is the game has grown. Yeah, it's not all bad news. Now things are changing in terms of us running it like a business. But at least the game has grown and we want it to expand more. And the previous chairman, Mwangi Mutai, his mantra was very simple. More rugby, better rugby. He just wanted more rugby, better rugby. Now we have, with our population of over 50 million, we want this game to be the game of choice and it to be a culture. When you start playing rugby from primary school, not get into a national team and you don't know how to pass to the right. Yeah, but we have the talent. In Kenya, we start late, but now we want to start at primary school.
Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 8. The Kenya Rugby Union chairman, Sasha Mutai, is our guest this morning. We're talking about development of the sport, not just the sport of rugby. We'll also broaden it up a little bit into sport in the country and what we need to do. You talked about developing the sport and saying that you're going to be approaching the Ministry of Education for partnership so that rugby can become one of the main sports at primary level.
Yeah.
Why is it important? What else would be needed? Do we need to build special pitches for rugby?
Yeah, so right now we're also in conversations with a company called American Towers. When they decommission their base stations, we're looking at doing a partnership where those circular hollow sections, that we call them CHSs in engineering, can now be deployed as for rugby posts. So we don't have that infrastructure. I was in St. Peter's, Mumias, as I said, a couple of months ago, and I watched there's a final there between Koyonzo and Kakamega High, and they have the football posts, and then they have connected some wooden poles for rugby purposes. So it's a repurposed thing. So and yet you are seeing quality rugby, and that's what I want to do, to bring in the infrastructure. So get down the posts to schools that can be used both for football and rugby, get in the balls. We have Dr. Ocheng Ahaya, who is now the director in charge of development from Masenda Muliro University. So he is proven. He's brought that team from nowhere to Kenya Cup, and his passion is for development. So as I said, we have a good team of directors on the board, and everybody has been given a portfolio that they are passionate about. So women's rugby, we have Kilonzo, development, we have Dr. Ocheng Ahaya. So everybody there is well versed in what they're doing. In terms of leagues and structures, we have a young director, Leslie Mwangale. Now, the leagues as well, we have problems with it, in terms of university diaries and other teams playing. And we have just been using paperwork. They say, I was in the fixtures committee. Earlier on, we were talking, City Muga, about Bukusi. Ronald Bukusi now is in cricket. When he was general manager of Kenya Rugby, I was playing in the 90s, and I was on the fixtures committee, together with Godwin Karuga and Herbert Mashiro. So we were still using the same paperwork that we came up with in the 90s. And it's 2023. So right now, Kenya Rugby is going to go tech. We'll have to get a technology partner. We cannot just be sending emails. Okay, at least we have email. But the player registration forms and all that are the same things we had in 25 years ago. So we need to move with the times. We have issues now with player registrations where, towards the end of the season, you see players playing from different teams, and then there are appeals, and then people are taking photos and saying this player was playing for here. I mean, it's just a mess that can be sorted out with technology, and that's what we want to do. So we are going to change everything in rugby. The things that are going well, we will keep them, of course, and improve. But there's a lot of things that we have to move with the times. So this that thing of radical surgery, it has to happen.
Sasha,
to move with the times, we have to.
These things, as you're saying them, I'm seeing it requires a lot of resource mobilization. And then, first of all, you must start with, this is a plan, this is the budget for it. So let's look at how we can meet this budget. Either in kind or in cash or whatever.
Yes.
What's the budget, for example, for just saying, let's have rugby in primary schools in Kenya?
So, first of all, there's one thing what we have is legacy debt. So
there too.
Yes. So we have to sort that out. And it's big.
How much?
It's about 112 million currently.
112 million shillings,
in debt. In debt. So how we are planning to reduce that is now the professionalization of the Super Series and privatizing that. So the rugby clubs there, those franchises will be private limited companies with investors coming in that will have also sponsors that now will get the benefits of the tax law, and other sponsorship benefits. But now we want people to come in and invest. We're going to give them a business plan. There's a business case of how the rugby teams are going to make money. And have investors come in. And of course, in a number of years, increase the value of those teams, and afterwards eventually float those teams on the stock exchange. We have diaspora funds, which is the biggest revenue earner for Kenya. Now, the diaspora, people in the States and the UK, they know about professional teams and rugby, especially, and they love our team. Now they'll be investing, so we want to give them an avenue for that. We have launched a soft launch of the KRU app. It was developed, and now we want to monetize it. So we're now starting to do partnerships with new partners coming in. So now we are running it like business. Okay, we look at the bottom line and we want results on the pitch, but those need resources. Rugby went professional after the 1995 World Cup. Kenya is still amateur. So we are punching above our weight. We were semi-pro at that point when I was telling you from between around 2009 to 2016. We were semi-pro. So for all intents and purposes, the players, they were working, but they were making more money in rugby. A lot of it was bonuses. We had base salaries that time. of 150,000 base salary, say in 2012, 2013, and bonuses. So on 2 good weekends, if the team got to semi-final, the bonuses would reach like $5,000. So a player would go home with $6,000 in 2012, and you are 24 years old. I was not making that kind of money when I was running my own quantity surveying farm or an architect. So it was an avenue for players to actually earn a livelihood, and that is what we want to do. Yeah.
Can I ask this question?
Yeah.
What role does the sports fund play in all this?
So Sports Fund, I'd like also, first of all, to also thank the Ministry of Sports. They've helped us quite a bit because, as I said, we've not had that private funding coming in. So the Ministry of Sports, we send our budgets, and to the Ministry of Sports, they're rationalized, and the Sports Fund also now releases the money to us. So like for this past week, the Bathurst Cup, the last 2 weeks, Minister of Sports funded it, basically. So we wouldn't have had it without them. And we also have our programs. Right now, the Kenya team is in South Africa. So we've gotten private funding for that. We're looking for bridge finance from the ministry and the sports fund for this. So the sports fund is very integral. And we want, first of all, I've told the CS and the PS that when we get our house in order, we want to, wean off that support, because we are sure that we are capable of getting our own funding. When I was in the Kenya Rugby Union before, we were pretty much self-reliant, and that's where we need to be. So I think Sports Fund, the money should go into infrastructure. We're also looking at developing our own infrastructure, a purpose-built rugby stadium, and that's why now we're seeking to get our title deed. Nobody is going to invest in any real estate if you don't have title to it. That's why when you see the hot potato for Kenya Rugby is the RFUA. Because Kenya Rugby Union, we don't have a title deed. We have our assets are 15 million shillings worth for a national federation, and that's the truth. We need to increase that. If you look at our balance sheet in the AGM, it's not a pretty picture. So what we want to do is now change things the way from how they have been. We need now to speak the truth over here. RFUA is, if you look at it in the open market, that ground there would be worth more than 4.5 billion shillings. I'm in the real estate industry, so I know what I'm talking about. But yet, our assets as Kenya Rugby Union is only 15 million shillings. And those things are depreciating at 10% every year. So, and that's the truth. So we want now to secure our land, and we shall develop it, and we have taught the government that we will get in private sector to come in and exploit the laws that are there. The government, current government, they're in the sports, in the manifesto, had named the tax incentives and all that, but they've hardly been used. We want to be the first sports federation to exploit that to the fullest and achieve our objectives.
What happens to Kenya Rugby if we actually get to win the series?
To win the series?
Yeah.
We win the series. In rugby, there's no real prize money. The only tournament with prize money is Hong Kong, which is the most the best sevens tournament.
Why is it the only one with prize money?
So it was a commercial tournament, invitation only before, then it was absorbed into the series. If Kenya wins the series, that will take a number of years, because we first have to survive. Right now we are going to Toulouse and London, so we are the tail end.
Toulouse, this place in France?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a sevens tournament.
We're not going to lose at it.
We are going to win in Toulouse. We are going to win in Toulouse. So again, there was little investment in the sevens team. Sport Pesa came in last December because, first of all, there was an arbitration, there was a case. There's been a lot of litigation in Kenya Rugby. We want to get over that chapter and say now we are back to rugby business. Rugby should be played on the pitch and not in courtrooms. And so if we also want to host Sevens tournament. But first of all, we have to revive our Safari Sevens. Last year, Safari Sevens was cancelled. It caused a lot of embarrassment. We had invited teams, and then it was cancelled at the last moment. So there's also, we have to repair our relationships. So we are saying Kenya Rugby now is a new face, and we want to repair our relationships. We want to build our trust, and get back our partners.
How much does it cost us to host the Safari Sevens?
Safari Sevens used to have a budget of about 50 million. But now we're looking at probably to get it back with the way we want, because we have to fly in teams.
The bells
probably 100 million will be a very good tournament that we can actually have some prize money and fly in good teams. The last Safari Sevens actually made money. It was in 2013, and I was the chairman of Safari Sevens that time. It was held at Kasarani for the first time, and we had 48,000 spectators that came in. And that was the weekend of the Westgate terror attack. Yeah. And we still had the biggest numbers ever in Kenya Rugby coming for Sevens tournament. Now, then afterwards, a few years later, it went back to RFUA. We had outgrown that, but we had to go back there because of the broken relationships with our partners. Now, what we're saying is things have changed. We want to get back to where we were, and it needs a big kick. A kick in the backside. And that's what we are doing. We are moving on. We need to get back Safari Sevens to be the premier Sevens tournament in Africa. It was before. Safari Sevens was bigger than the George tournament that was in South Africa, that now moved to Port Elizabeth. But now the biggest one is Cape Town. That's no doubt. Okay. Now we want to compete. We are ambitious, and we know we can do it. And Kenya, the brand of Kenya Rugby on the pitch, and our supporters. If you go anywhere in the world, Kenyans are there. Thousands of them are there. In fact, in July, Kenya has been invited to the New York City Sevens, which is it's going to have $1 million prize money. There are only 8 teams. It's a one-day tournament. And Kenya is not now top 8. We're number 13 now in the series.
Out of how many?
Out of 16.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are on relegation zone, but we are going to lose, not to lose. We are going to lose to win. Is it? So we want to get back Safari Sevens back to where it should be. Safari Sevens. I'm even talking to the CS and the PS. We're saying, and my previous plan was, why don't we have Safari Sevens and Safari Rally, back-to-back weekends?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the demographic of people flying into Kenya to watch the rally, they're the same demographic that will come and watch an international Sevens tournament.
So why don't they just stay?
And stay. And then for that 1 week in between the tournaments, between Safari Rally and Safari Sevens, you go to Mombasa, you go to Masai Mara. So this is one conversation we want to open, to bring, make Kenya a sports tourism destination. Things like that. We have to think outside the box. In UAE, you have Dubai Sevens and you have the Formula One in Abu Dhabi. I've gone there and spent 10 days. And spend quite a bit of money. So that's what you want, because let's come and watch this game. Big teams are coming. So if your flight ticket is the same. Now, why don't you go and see our beautiful beaches and climb a mountain and go see the animals in the national parks?
Or club in Nairobi.
Yes.
Yeah, I usually say when you come to Kenya, you'll go see the animals and the wildlife. Yes. Those are two distinctly different things.
There's been that talk of when you took the first time the Sevens was taken to Nyayo Stadium, and then it went to Kasarani, and the whole issue of why are you removing the Safari Sevens from its home? Justify that, because there's that whole issue of taking it to a stadium.
We had outgrown it. The fact is, RFUA can only hold probably 6,000 fans.
Yeah.
On 2 days, it will be 12,000. Okay. When we moved it to Nyayo Stadium, I have the numbers. Nyayo Stadium, when I was the chairman of Safari Sevens, I was vice chairman at that time, we had 45,000 spectators that came in. So we outgrew that facility. That's a fact. But now, of course, and then we moved from there to Kasarani. So in 2012, I actually had to order for the fence. There's a fence between the spectators and the field. I had to actually bring it down for safety of spectators. So we also outgrew Nyayo. in 2012. So we had to move 2013 to Kasarani. And that's a fact. So that's why we need to build our stadium, a purpose-built rugby stadium with no track around it, where you can be, close to the cauldron of action, and you can hear calls and you can hear the hits. That is what a cauldron atmosphere. We have a gladiatorial contest. That is what we want. So purpose-built rugby stadium. Of course, now there's new technology that's coming. So that's what we want to leverage. It's 2023. If we look at Kenya in terms of telecoms, I think we're ahead of the world. When you look at M-Pesa and all that, and even our payment systems. Now,
what capacity are you looking at?
I would say comfortably, probably 30,000. That is modular. That can grow. So again, you don't want it too big, but you design it in a modular way. Yeah.
Sasha, everybody who's wanted to head rugby in this country, those who you've competed against in the last 3 times and previously taken the mantle, have said the same beautiful things at the beginning of their tenure. We want to transform rugby. We want rugby to be the best. We want to we are going to professionalize. In fact, people are not going to be working in rugby and then working. No. People are only going to focus on rugby. And then we see what happens. So for you, what should we judge you by within the first year? Or what do you want us to give you? Do you want us to give you 2 years? Do you want to give you 1.5 years? At what point do you want people to start looking back and saying, all right, Sasha, Mutai and team, here's what you said, where are we?
Well, at the end of this year, you have to see that we have a number of partners that have come in. Okay, you have to see that. Big names will come back in.
So sponsors, number one.
Yeah, sponsors. So I'm calling them. So sponsorship now technically to get in the tax incentives and all that, it's sponsorship. Okay. But I'm calling them partners.
Okay.
Because you put in the money into Kenya Rugby, you're going to get a very good return. So you're going to get value. So we're calling them partners. So we're going to bring in partners, new ones that have not been there before, and previous ones.
By the end of this year.
By the end of this year, you'll see that growing.
Okay.
We want, of course, again, now to secure our land, so to increase our asset base. Yeah, I mean, that's a straight line figure. You'll see from 15 million, we need to have gone to a few 100 million, And
so this is getting the title for...
Yeah, we have to start getting our land title and doing leases and all that. I also want to help clubs, rugby clubs, our affiliates, to secure also land for themselves. Right now, a club like Mwamba RFC, which is the first indigenous African rugby club in Kenya, after they were kicked out of Railway Club, they are homeless. So we are quite a number of homeless people in rugby, including the National Federation. It's no laughing matter, but we need. I'm going to work hard, of course, with for my affiliates, the clubs out there, to also secure land to put up their fields, So that's what we have to do. And also to get the partners coming in, we need to get our leagues have sponsors. So Kenya Cup, Nationwide and Championship to have a partner that comes in. So this money trickles down to the clubs. Because the clubs, let me tell you, every weekend we've been receiving, requests and M-Pesas and those teams are run by good rugby people, passionate people. There's no money in the sport, and yet they are there every weekend, honoring fixtures. They have to get an ambulance before you play a game. There has to be an ambulance, and all these things cost money. Paying players allowances. We need to make it a bit easier for those clubs. Some clubs, if you look at the Kenya Cup, for example, there's a big disparity between top sides like Cabras and KCB and Oilers that have sponsorship, serious sponsorship, and other teams, including the institutional teams. At least those have buses that can take them wherever, but they're not paid allowances. They don't have gyms, and they're competing against the Cabras, which is for all intents and purposes, and KCB professional rugby teams. So you can see in the Kenya Cup, there's a huge, if you see scores of 45, 50. There's a big gap. That is not helping Kenya Rugby, It's not helping our national team, and it's not helping those clubs because they only have probably 4 4 serious games in a season.
Yeah.
It's not going to improve our rugby and their rugby. So our interest is now to improve rugby as a whole. That's my mandate as the chairman of Kenya Rugby. I'm not just going to change a few clubs. I want to improve rugby completely in this country. And now we need to get those partnerships in. Also to clubs. Apart from the leagues, you know, if the union is not attracting any money, how do you expect clubs to? So, you know, people say rugby in your game hatutaki because they don't know what's happening there. So they're not even going to talk to the clubs.
Yeah.
So we are saying it's a new face, rugby has changed, but the people that have been running these teams, those are passionate, brilliant people who go in, you know, against all adversity and are playing those games and every weekend against all that. So they are hard-working people, and I love them. And
all they needed was a support.
Exactly, and we are going to get that done.
All right.
Yeah.
So in 12 months' time, we'll look back and see, not in 12 months, in 8 months' time, we'll look back and see what have you done. Sponsors and partners back. Does KRU have its land? Do the affiliates? Clubs have their lands, and then we'll be looking at the progression of Kenya Rugby. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Sasha Mutai is the chairman of the Kenya Rugby Union. He's been our guest this morning, talking to us about the development of the sport in the country and what needs to happen. Keep it here for more.